Recommending regulations. Crypto working groups make push for adoption. And this is the second last article. And I'm going to take a short break from the stream, and I'll be back then with some chess. So carrying on with this, collective groups and associations want to establish industry standards for crypto, but amen, brother. Collective groups and associations want to establish industry standards for crypto, but will this guidance make a real impact on adoption? Although the cryptocurrency sector may still be considered the Wild West by some governments and regulators, continued adoption and emerging use cases show that digital currencies are here to stay. Some even argue that blockchain-based networks and decentralized finance, or DeFi platforms, may soon replace traditional financial systems. And one of the things with DeFi as well is that it's like a community operation where normally we all put our money into banks, and the banks use that money then to loan out to other people like us, and they get the interest on that and pay pittance to us. Okay, so it's basically the same thing as that, only we're taking away the bank and we're getting more of the profits back in interest. Okay, this is decentralized finance. But yet, despite ongoing progress, the crypto industry is still young and therefore requires further development before it can be widely accepted. And again, this is why it's still a good time to get involved in all of this, because it's still very, very early days. One area in particular that needs deeper addressing within the crypto space is regulation. Mohammed El Arian, Chief Economic Advisor at Allianz, a German multinational financial services company, stated in a Financial Times article that it's the duty of crypto proponents to cultivate better relationships with regulatory stakeholders given the disruptive nature of the novel tech. Fortunately, some members within the crypto community understand that relationships with regulators, policymakers, and the public sector are necessary to foster adoption. As a result, working groups focused on developing standards for the blockchain space are beginning to emerge. See, it's important, because it's very easy to take on this sort of rebellious mindset. It's like, flip the system and all this stuff. Okay, but in reality, what makes sense is that there will be a merging of systems, adoptions, and technologies. Okay, because the old system isn't just going to go, oh well, we lost. There's a new system in place now. It has to be a slow progression and evolution, okay, and all-inclusive, Anyway, moving on. Working groups drive innovation for adoption. For example, leaders across the cash-to-crypto industry recently announced the formation of the Cryptocurrency Compliance Cooperative, or CCC, not to be mistaken with coffee, crypto, and chess, CCC. Founded by Bitcoin ATM operators Digital Mint and CoinSource, along with blockchain analysis, platform chain analysis, the CCC is a collaborative association that aims to develop compliance standards to legitimize the Bitcoin ATM industry in the United States. This is especially important given the fact that nearly 48 cryptocurrency ATMs, Chester County Council, the important CCC that everyone knows about, of course. I gotta bring this up just so people don't think I'm talking to myself. Love you to me, brother. Chester County Council, big shout out. So, while impressive industry participants have previously noted that in countries such as Canada, Know Your Customer or KYC compliance for crypto ATMs has only recently been implemented. Bo Oni, Executive Vice President of Operations and Head of Compliance at CoinSource, told Cointelegraph that although there has been exponential growth and maturity, hold on a second. Although there has been exponential growth and maturity in the cash to crypto industry, especially with Bitcoin ATMs in the US, there is still a lack of anti-money laundering processes among companies. Many of these operators also lack financial crime prevention departments. As such, Oni explained that the CCC, not the Chester County Council, was formed to combat fraud and the various use cases. The best, I think this is a quote from the article, the best way to overcome the challenges faced by cash to crypto industry is through this cooperative. We plan to push logical and responsible standards that adequately address the concerns we are seeing and then to share them with our industry. We hope that these are adopted in scale by all the companies in this sector and that we can define future regulations. While developing standards for the cash to crypto industry is the main objective behind the CCC, it's important to point out the collaborative nature of the association. Mark Grenz, co-founder and president of Digital Mint, told Cointelegraph that CCC hopes to bring together some of the best minds in the industry. Grenz noted that this will ultimately allow for key players in the space to join forces to determine standards for an ever-growing, often misunderstood sector. Grenz emphasized that there wasn't much of an impact when the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, or FinCEN, came out with official guidance in 2013, saying that cryptocurrency exchanges and money transmitters must act as money services businesses under the Bank Secrecy Act. This guidance is like putting a square peg in a round hole. Regulators didn't know much about cryptocurrency at this time and basically took that act and shoved this industry in there. These individuals aren't looking behind closed doors at what is really going on though. As Grenz explained, the cash to cryptocurrency industry learned early that organizations need to come together to deliver data-driven, objective facts about the fraudulent activity happening in the space. The current Money Service Business Act is not enough to combat illicit activity. Oni further hopes that the CCC will become a milestone for the crypto ecosystem as different players in an emerging, increasingly competitive space will join forces to develop standards for the betterment of an industry. We don't need government involvement to set standards. Although this may be, Oni did share that the CCC has close relationships with members of US law enforcement, including those involved with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Department of Homeland Security, and local and state agencies. We want to educate and communicate these individuals on what the standards should be. They can then implement the policies. The CCC is just one example of a collaborative association working to define cryptocurrency sector standards for regulators to adopt. Haley Lennon, partner at law firm Anderson Kill, told Cointelegraph that various trade associations have developed over the last few years. She mentioned that some of these include the Blockchain Association, Virtual Commodity Association, and Crypto Council for Innovation. According to Lennon, it's logical for crypto and blockchain companies to want to be a part of working groups and trade associations to help educate regulators, especially with all the different state and federal regulations floating around the space. Regulation stifles innovation. Carefully crafted regulation does less harm and protects the end user. That's my own input there. There's the last piece. This certainly does seem to be the case for the maturing cryptocurrency industry. For example, Chen Arad, Chief Operating Officer of Solidus Labs, a risk monitoring platform for digital assets, told Cointelegraph that collaborative groups that share data across market surveillance are key to answering the Bitcoin Futures Exchange Traded Fund question. He remarked, "The lack of shared surveillance agreements in crypto is the main reason for the SEC's rejections of the Bitcoin ETF rule change applications. The SEC wants to know if traders are manipulating Bitcoin across more than one exchange. Monitoring for this requires data sharing agreements that would allow for cross-market surveillance." Arad added that aside from the crypto sector, there have been plenty of examples of industry-driven self-regulation that has enabled new technologies to solve regulatory challenges and prosper. The online lending network in the lending space and the intermarket surveillance group in the securities space created by those industries to solve very similar cross-platform concerns. So, last section. Will working groups make an impact? Lennon pointed out that many of the cryptocurrency working groups and collaborative associations mentioned are not currently recognized as official self-regulatory organizations, or SROs. In turn, Lennon explained that it may be challenging for regulators to work with these groups. An SRO is typically given legislative authority from a regulatory agency that allows it to create policies and enforce them in a specific industry. For example, FINRA or FINRA is an SRO for the US Securities and Exchange Commission. Currently, none of the organizations mentioned here have the legislative authority to function as an SRO, and therefore they are more trade associations or working groups who provide suggestions for how regulations impact the space. Lennon explained that these groups are indeed helpful, but don't hold the same authority as SROs, echoing the sentiment. Zachary Kalman, managing partner of Kalman PLLC and general counsel of Cointelegraph, believes that it helps to have an organizational body put out standards, but that the federal government generally looks at the traditional industry standards. The federal government has an agenda. They manage money service businesses and want them to comply with certain laws. Despite this, Kalman pointed out that it may be easier for cryptocurrency working groups to approach state regulators when it comes to standards, mentioning that this is the case especially as many US states such as Florida now try to become crypto havens. It may be possible to have a standard for cryptocurrency ATMs on a state level as an educational state regulators. If these standards are fairly uniform across the industry, then this could be helpful to coordinate efforts across the country. While this makes sense, Lennon remarked that another challenge is the growing number of working groups within the crypto space. In particular, Lennon is concerned that with so many working groups, there are overlapping goals, and potentially, because in a perfect world, he says, there would be collaboration between or merging of many of these groups to bring more cohesion to the industry. Now, that was a long one. If you're still here, thank you for sticking around. Hope you're finding this interesting. There's a lot to take in, and I think before I've had maybe 3 to 4 articles. There's quite a few here.